This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone, welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. Hi everyone. On this episode of Eat, Explore, Love the podcast, I'm chatting with author and relationship coach Marisa Flood. Folks, we talk a little bit about relationships, but you can't love someone else fully if you don't love yourself first. So there's also a lot of talk about how to work on yourself and the value in creating a healthy space for yourself as you walk into another relationship. I wish I knew Marisa a few years ago when I was going through some tough times in my own previous relationship. Her energy is so open and caring, and I know her clients are lucky to have her. If you're also inspired by Marisa and her energy and spirit, you can check out her book and her website to find out more about her. Hi everyone. As we approach the end of the year, we are also approaching the end of season 1 of Eat, Explore, Love the podcast. It's been a wild ride with lots of adventures to share. We are taking the first few months of the year to regroup and figure out our next steps. And the Eat, Explore, Love team would love to hear from you. We have a couple of ideas brewing, but we want to hear from our listeners to see if there's anything that would be helpful for you. We're looking for any type of feedback, ranging from, should I look into getting a co-host? Would you like to be more of an active part of the podcast where I interview you guys about your favorite cities? Would you want to hear from more medical experts, travel experts, self-love experts? If you have any thoughts, we want to hear them at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. We at Eat, Explore, Love appreciate all of your support and kindness in listening over the past year. That's 130 episodes that you've sat through and listened to. I've been so lucky to not only be able to go on all the adventures I've been able to experience, but I've been so lucky to have all of you to share this with. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter and send us an email at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Now, back to the show. Hi, Marisa. It's so lovely to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here, Ashley.
So I've done my research, and our listeners will see a little bio of you before heading into listening to this episode. But I would love to hear in your own words, who is Marisa?
Sure. So, in this incarnation in time, I am a relationship coach that really wants to help couples find peace and happiness in the relationship. You know, I grew up, as many of us, with a dysfunctional role model in my parents' marriage. And so I really have taken a deep dive in studying what it takes to have a great relationship. And, you know, the wonderful thing about living in this era is that we know what it takes now. The information is all there. It's just a matter of getting it to the people and having that level of understanding, because we don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. And I feel it's imperative to really, you know, study in this realm if we want to have a happy relationship.
So what inspired you to want to go into this line of work? Is it simply just the terms in which you grew up and were raised in? Was there anything in particular that made you perhaps choose this as a career path?
Yeah, I think it was twofold for me. From your pain comes your gift. And I was struggling in my own relationships. And I really wanted to figure out, was it me? Was it them? What did I need to do differently? And so in that process of, you know, skilling up myself, and then also healing from my trauma, I realized that there's very little information in the culture that helps us with this, and so I really wanted to get that out there. And I think also most importantly is that when you heal the couple relationship, it's at the core of society. And so anything else that happens underneath that, whether it's addictions, dysfunctional or trauma in the family, all that comes out of a healthy, unhealthy partnership. So if we can heal that, it will have a ripple effect down into society. I firmly believe that if we took all the world leaders having all these wars and looked at their childhood homes and the trauma they went through and put them in a healthy home, we wouldn't be in this place now. So I feel it's very important work to be done.
So you brought up a couple things, and before we even started recording, we talked about the idea of perhaps discussing of self-love in relation to coming out of unhealthy relationships. But I think it's good to start at the beginning of how does one know that they are in something that is unhealthy? Because what is unhealthy for me, I was having this discussion with folks the other day about people were making comments about someone else's relationship, and I was like, yes, you might not like that in your relationship, but that makes that person happy. So how do you know if you're in something that's actually unhealthy, full stop?
Yeah, so I think, as you mentioned, there is a personal spectrum of what feels good to you, and your body will tell you whether you feel at peace, you feel respected, you feel trustworthy with your partner, or are there unhealthy components in there? Is there disrespect, dishonesty, people trying to control or manipulate you, or vice versa? Is there a lack of trust? You're feeling smothered. Does the person try to isolate you? So there are maybe, unhealthy components in a largely healthy relationship. That's also possible. And so what we want to look at is if what you're doing with your partner is healthy and relational for you two 51% of the time, you're in the right direction. There might be things going on in the background that you definitely need to work on, but at least you're in an upward trajectory. And it's never a straight line. Even when I work with my couples and they learn some skills, they'll do better for a while, and then there'll be a blow up and they take two steps back. Totally normal. Totally normal. We have this very flawed sense of success that it's a straight line, and it's not like that. So it is a personal sense of what's good for you, but then also we know psychologically what human beings need to thrive in a relationship, and that's some of those components I mentioned.
And then I think the next step in that, which I am a couple of years out of what would be called an unhealthy relationship. And I don't want to, because I feel like sometimes unhealthy gets misconstrued as abusive too. And I just want to say, never abusive. It was just not the best. Did not bring out the best in one another, which is what made it unhealthy. But I always say, through circumstances that I grew up in, I learned that you just do what you can to make a bad thing work. So, how do you know? The thing that I struggled with was I didn't know when it was time to say, okay, we've done as much as we could here and it's time to walk away. We should be better as friends. How does someone make that distinction for themselves before they're in so deep that then there's all the excuses of why you have to stay? Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to look at is the attitude of the two partners. Are these people who are willing to roll up their sleeves, get in there, and look at what's going wrong? Are you willing to make repair attempts? Are you willing to have those deeper conversations that, really build a healthier, intimate relationship? Are you willing to take accountability? Are you willing to look at yourself and see, okay, yeah, I fucked up there. What do I need to do next time that's better? Can you make new agreements together? So it depends a lot on the mindset of the two people. If you have one person only who's kind of being the more relational partner and carrying a lot of the weight, I would say that person can try for a period of time. Maybe it's a couple of months where they're giving their all, they're showing up as healthy as they can, they're meeting their partner's needs. And if that partner doesn't respond or start to shift or acknowledge or appreciate, these are the red flags that you've really invested and this partner is not showing up for you.
What do you feel is your place in having that conversation with couples that you work with? Are you able to say, hey guys, I think you're past the point of no return. It's time to call it quits? Or is that not your role in working with your clientele?
You know, some couples, they are happy in the misery. It's what we
Mm,
call stable misery.
okay.
And they have a very well grooved pattern of dysfunction between them. And they think that's all they can get, or their wound is such a great match for each other that they're meshed in that. They're trauma bonding.
Mm,
And they may be happy to stay in that miserable place, but usually we try to paint a picture like, what's it going to be like 5, 10 years from now if this is still going on? Is this what you want? You
mm,
know, because some people, they forget about the the toll on us. We have
mm,
information from the field of sociogenomics now, which studies, the relationships between our social relationships and our genes. And it's telling us that if we are in a conflictual, unhealthy relationship, it turns on the genes of inflammation and it leads to disease. If we're in a healthy one, it turns on the genes of repair. This is now showing up at the cellular level. So all these choices have repercussions, and we might not be aware of those, but they're important to keep in mind as well.
So now I'm at like I guess, the worst case scenario. You can't, the decision is made between the couple that they can't make it work. Um, if you've gone through a lot of trauma with someone, it does make an impact, or at least it did for me. It has an impact on your self esteem where you think that, at least I thought, worthless, like I had nothing good to contribute to the world, that I'm going to be alone forever because if I couldn't make it work here, I can't make it work anywhere. Do you also work with folks in that regard too, of helping to build themselves back up to being willing to be open to having another relationship again, or even just loving themselves, and then if a relationship happens it goes from there? Do you help people through that transition so they're not stuck in the negatives of that trauma from that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I typically work more with couples in that
Mhm.
regard, but I will tell you that if you don't do that healing work on your own and you get into the next relationship, you will carry that with you.
Yeah.
And it's just that that relationship brought out that pattern. They were a mirror for you. Our partners are our teachers, and it's our responsibility to get those lessons, and they are extremely painful. I hear you, and I this goes on very commonly.
Yeah.
And so, usually I advise people to take 6 months off dating or a
Mm.
relationship and just look at, what's the pattern here? How many times has this happened in my former relationship? Am I the common denominator? Or was this something that just happened with this partner and it's something in our dynamic? But it really is so important that we do that self reflection and that learning and that growing up. One of the things that's it's so critical is to wake up and grow up so we can show up for our partners.
Mm.
And the crucible of relationship very often is how this shows up.
Yeah. So I thought it was very interesting that you said that after you end a relationship that you should probably take 6 months off. I have a couple of friends that are what I guess would be referred to as serial monogamous. Is there also value in that? Because I think that there are people that are the serial monogamous that are like, you just gotta, in order to not get caught up in thinking that you're the problem, which, yes, nobody's perfect and everybody has their things, but in order to not lose confidence in yourself in the dating, just jump right back in there. Do you think that there's also value in that side of it as well? And if so, how do you know which way you need to go?
Yeah. So, I mean, I also have done kind of back to back.
Yeah.
And that was because I felt healed enough from the last relationship. I spent the last year of us being together grieving the end of that. I
Yeah.
knew it was coming. And so by the time our container was complete, emotionally, I was ready to move on. So it really depends on how the other partnership ended.
Hmm.
And and what their part was in the ending of that. If they are the codependent one, if they are the one that is, being hyper vigilant, or maybe they're verbally dumping on their partner, chances are if they want a better relationship, they'd have to work on that. Otherwise, it's going to repeat again in the next relationship.
Yeah. That's it. So I guess in order for this to be successful in dating or otherwise, you need to be extremely self-aware. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, I maybe I overdo it, see all my hundreds of books here. But I just feel like knowledge is power.
Mm,
And when you can really look at yourself under the microscope and see, how do I want to do better here? Is there a more meaningful way that will up level the dynamic in my next relationship?
mm,
And, the great thing about that, I will tell you, is that as you do that healing work and you raise your frequency, the quality of the next partner goes up. You jump a
mm.
league instead of staying in that same loop, same
Yeah.
kind of partner. Now you can go into a higher level of relationship that is less conflictual, perhaps less, of the drama, so to speak.
Yeah. So my thing that I hear all the time when it comes to dating is you should never talk about your past relationships. And to me, that sounds like a mistake because there are things, and I know that the term trigger is overused and abused lately, but there are real, genuine triggers that happen to you and that are going to happen as you start new relationships. I think for me, it will be meeting friends and family of the partner that I'm with because that was a very severe reaction of what happened to me in the previous one, as an example.
Yes.
Um, I feel like that will need to be explained to a partner if I have a panic attack when meeting their parents for the first time because of that past relationship. So, do you have any opinions on if you should or shouldn't bring up a previous relationship? Obviously not on a constant basis, but maybe
Yeah.
to help me help me sort of thing.
Yes, I think how you bring it up is what makes a difference.
Mm,
Oftentimes, how people talk about their past relationship is from the victim perspective.
mm,
She did this to me, he did this to me.
yeah.
You were at effect of that person. And that is, for me, a red flag, because now likely that person will not take responsibility in your relationship.
Mm,
So the kind of questions I will ask, a prospective partner is, how did your relationship end? And what was your part in its ending? And then I'll
mm,
be able to see what kind of accountability is maybe built into that dynamic and their mindset. Because for me, I want somebody who has that, healthy, growth oriented mindset where they're going to try and learn from what went wrong. Um, but I do feel, as you mentioned, that there needs to be a level of understanding of where we came from in our wounding, because guaranteed it's going to come up. So those
mhm.
conversations do need to take place. They don't need to know the name, the guy, the circumstances. You can just say, hey, I was in this relationship before and these things came up for me. And I know these are potential trigger points. So I just want to let you in that this is something that, I've had to manage in the past and I might need your help with.
Mm,
And so then that way they have an understanding. I think where couples go wrong a lot is that they don't know why their partner is acting that way and where
mm,
it's come from. And
yeah.
so one of the first things, I try to teach couples in their communication is to stop the problem solving, stop the right or wrong, and figure out, like, what's my understanding, gain compassion and empathy for where they're coming from and why they're showing up this way. Now, it might have been in their last relationship, but I guarantee you that had an echo back to their childhood wound somewhere. So it's likely an older um, issue that just basically showed up in that relationship. But I think it's so important to have that vulnerability and intimacy. If you're getting serious with somebody, I wouldn't say on the first couple of dates,
Mhm.
um, but definitely at some point they need to know, like, where you've come from and what made you Ashley.
So, what do you feel for folks that are dating? Because there's so much out there and people have such strong opinions about it. And I feel like, again, like we said before, what's good for one person might not be the golden rule for another. But are there any, as you're starting to date somebody, because you brought up really good questions to ask once you start to get into like the second phase where it's more vulnerable and it's getting a little bit more serious,
Hmm.
how do you ask questions that you should maybe even ask as touch points throughout the relationship from the beginning to kind of get to know if you're on the same wavelength as that person or not? Are there easy questions that everybody could ask?
Yeah. So the trick is not to be Barbara Walters direct about it. You kind of go roundabout. So, for
Mm,
instance, I'm looking for somebody who's interested in personal growth. So I'm going to say, hey, have you read anything interesting recently? So that will
mm,
tell me, have they read any books? What kind of books they're reading? Is this the kind of mindset of somebody that I would like?
mm,
Um, Also, with the issue that you mentioned around the family, you know, how your potential partner relates to their family is how they're going to relate to you eventually. So
mm-hmm,
I fell into this trap as well. And so now the questions are, hey, do you have any siblings? How's your relationship with them? How often do you talk to your parents? All of these are like subtle clues that tell you about the depth and level of relationship that's there and whether it's healed or not. Do they even
mm.
still talk to their siblings? Like somebody who doesn't talk to certain people in their family, bit of a red flag.
Well, I guess it depends on why, right?
Yes,
If it's a red flag for them or for the person that you're talking to.
yes, yes.
um, but uh, that's really interesting, and I love that. What do you feel is the most common mistake you see people making as they're starting out relationships that set them up for failure in the end? Is it just not knowing themselves? Is it having hopeful expectations of who somebody else is? Is it none of what I just said?
I would say falling into the chemistry trap.
Mm,
And this is something that we all, are prey to because hormonally, if we have somebody that we're very chemically attracted to, it will actually um, downplay those parts of our brain that will be paying attention to red flags and might be trying to get our attention. Hormonally, those things are suppressed because the gene pool wants us to procreate, it wants us to bond with others. So it's a little bit intentional. So I think that we really need to be asking the deeper questions, such as what are these person's values? What do they spend the most time on week to week? If you're somebody who's really health oriented and you're a fitness buff and this person, is a couch potato, that's not going to work in the long run. So your top two values have to be in common. Um, and then, the things around that, regarding hobbies or personality, those are things that can be worked with. But I think asking those deeper questions that have the better alignment over the long haul will get you more insight.
yeah. I think that's, and I think the way that you had those questions before of even just asking what kind of books do you like to read, just to see what their interest, if they even like reading, is very interesting. And um, I remember there was one time where I was talking with somebody and we were just asking those questions, and then he started like interrogating me and attacking me for my, and I was like, okay, cool, now just a simple question was asked and now I know, based on that simple question, if that can't even be handled, I can't be vulnerable with this person, so out of here I go. um so
Yeah, that's an excellent point because as women, we are kind of responsible for the depth of the emotional container as we're
mhm,
dating somebody, and so often it behooves us to kind of start with some level of vulnerability to see, okay, can this person meet me, or do they retract, or do they make
mm,
fun of, or do they actually come back and share something vulnerable with you? So these are, again, a more subtle ways of finding out the emotional health of the person that you're speaking with.
absolutely. Do you I have like so many questions in my head for you. That, if for people that I feel like there's still that stigma. I talk about this all the time on the podcast. There's so much stigma with mental health. And that, and I think that Dax Shepard, I don't know if you listen to his podcast, Armchair Expert, but
Hmm.
my favorite thing that I ever heard him say about couples therapy in particular, because him and Kristen Bell are very open that within the first month of them being together, they were already in couples therapy. And people were like, shouldn't that have been a red flag? And he said, well, no, because we had these little small issues and we right away worked it out, nipped it in the bud. And then it's like getting an oil change for your car. Do you have another perspective that for people that are hesitant about going and getting couples therapy, that are hesitant to go and get help, um, why they shouldn't be afraid to go and get this help? Because you're giving such simple little things that are helpful and will go a long way, both in the beginning of a relationship and throughout a relationship. Is there any perspective that you could provide on why people should come to you?
Yeah, I think that we really need to take away the cachet around getting help, whether it's with a therapist or a coach. Um, and it's so important. This is the most important area of our life. And it takes a village, just like raising a child. To raise a relationship, it takes a village, and we need people to micro coach us through some of these harder moments so that those patterns and that resentment doesn't get built up. So it is kind of like an insurance policy for you and your partner. And for me, it's not a sign of weakness or anything to be ashamed about. I think it's really smart. The people I follow, they build it into their wedding vows that if there are problems, they will find some help. And these people who are already coaches and have a lot of expertise. So I think that it's a very wise approach. The sooner the better.
Mm.
I love the fact that they did that within the first month. I mean, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
They've been together, a long time. They have children now, and clearly that's worked for them. And I think it also you need to make sure it's the right kind of help.
Mm.
People who are trauma informed, people who are skills based will give you specific skills. A lot of couples therapy will not do that. So if
Mm.
you're working with a new therapist, make sure that they have a tool bag they can convey to you. And also that somebody who can give you hope, to hold the high watch for you while you're going through your difficulties.
Mm.
So these things are really important.
Asking about Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell actually triggered another question, which is a little controversial. And if you don't want this to stay in, it doesn't have to. But I get judged a lot because I'm closer to 30 than I would like to admit. But, or that my face will show, hopefully. But, with, I get a lot of judgment that a lot of people in my life have gotten married at this point or are close to getting married. Do you feel, and a lot of times what's thrown in my face, because I'm indifferent to the idea, um, do you feel like a relationship can only be successful if marriage is on the table in the long term sense?
There are a few different ideas on that.
Mhm.
Harville Hendricks is a very famous couples therapist, and he talks about your brain will only start to really work on the relationship once it knows all the exits are closed. So
Mm.
once you're married, technically for that period of time, the exits are closed and you're committed. You've made a commitment to work through whatever needs to be worked through. So I
Mm.
think there's something to be said for the psychological impact of getting married
Yeah.
that does help that. But I don't feel that's the only way. I feel that, there are very committed couples who have never gotten married. Goldie Hawn and
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name. So many couples have gone that route and it's worked for them.
Mhm.
So again, a personal decision, and it depends on, your level of commitment, and the quality of the connection is what's most important.
I appreciate that answer. I'm going to take that clip, and next time a family member, I'm just going to play that clip. Uh, my I do see the value in, because I do, there have been relationships when I was in my early 20s and still getting to know myself in my teenage years where I would have needed the marriage thing to feel like, okay, well, now a ring on my finger, at least to feel like, okay, they're committed to me. They're not going anywhere, to feel safe and secure.
Mm,
So I totally feel that, but I hope in a healthy enough relationship, and if I work through enough of my problems and issues and traumas, that hopefully I don't need the ring on my finger, because to me it's like I don't need to be any more or less committed to somebody by a piece of
correct.
paper.
Correct.
But I do understand the whatever that brain chemistry is that is
Mm-hmm.
going to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
totally,
Mm-hmm.
I have felt that
Yes.
in certain with certain people.
Yes.
My last main question for you is, um oh my gosh, it just left my head. Oh, what has been so sorry, Saturday vibes as we're recording this. What do you feel has been the most rewarding part of this chapter and what you're doing in your work?
I would say, seeing the impact on my couples, and I do a lot of deep trauma work with them, and just seeing the the breakthroughs that they have, when their partner is able to witness them in this trauma work and see them come through that. It's just a next level of intimacy that's you're
Mm.
witnessing in front of you. And again, I feel like healing this couple relationship is so important. So that's been a really beautiful part of the journey. And then I also am learning as I go with the couples. I mean, oftentimes what shows up in the room is something that I've had to deal with or may still have to deal with. So
Mm.
there's always a sacred mirror happening, whether it's between me and the couple or, in between them. It's very sacred work, I feel.
Yeah, I love that. I usually ask this at the end of my rapid fire, but I want to, if people are as inspired as I am by hearing you speak and everything that you're saying making sense, and you have this open energy about you as I'm speaking to you, that I could totally see the success with the couples that you have, because you create this energy where I would tell you my deepest, darkest secrets right here, right now, if it wasn't being recorded. But where can people find you? Or do you do things virtually? Does it have to be in person? How does your process work?
Sure. So I'm in New York City and I do in person work, but COVID kind of changed a lot of that as well. So I can do virtual pretty much anywhere in the country.
Mm,
As a relationship coach, we're not restricted by state.
mm.
And my brand is Conflict to Connection with the number two. That's my website and also my Instagram handle. And I have some free giveaways there if people would like to find out more about me.
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the description for the podcast episode.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I always ask the same rapid fire questions to end every episode with. Is it okay if I ask you some of those?
Sure.
They're all in the eat, explore, love vein.
Okay.
So, what is in your opinion, the city with the best food?
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Um, London.
Okay, love
Shock
that.
answer, but I lived there and wow, knocked my socks off.
I was pleasantly surprised by London as well, because people told me, "Oh no, it's not that great, whatnot," and the food has gotten really good.
Phenomenal, phenomenal.
Do you prefer a vacation that requires you to relax or be active?
I like a blend of both. I like adventuring. I'll do a day or two on the beach, but I like a mix of stimuli.
Mm, I love that. And my last question is, where is the city that you learned the most about yourself?
I would say New York is where I grew up. I had
Mm.
my heyday in London, but from the time I was 30 to 50, I've spent in New York, and that's really where I grew up with my own inner evolution and relationally as well.
It's a really good answer. I like that. As a fellow New Yorker, I like that answer. Uh, well, thank you so much, Marissa, for everything. I just want to remind everybody that they have to go check out Conflict to Connection with the number two. Again, we're going to have the link as well to your book. We didn't even talk about your book. Do you want to make a quick pitch for your book?
Sure. It's called From Conflict to Connection, a modern day guide to getting the love you want. And it's loaded with practical skills, how to repair with your partner, how to set boundaries, understanding needs and wants with your partner, and also the different mindsets and paradigm shifts that we need to go through to have relational intelligence here.
Love that. I can't wait. I will have to get the book, and then we'll need you to sign it one day when I hopefully meet you in person.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much, Marisa. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Okay, Ashley, great to be here.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, make sure to check out the show notes for Marisa's book, her website, and any other information you might want to know about Eat, Explore, Love the podcast. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.